a deep dive into why the sale of the Apple Watch was banned, and then it wasn't. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by Coda, your all-in-one collaborative workspace. Get started with Coda for free now and get a $1,000 credit at coda.io/MacVoices. Well, guys, we have a number of other things to get to. We'll try to touch on some of these. And some of this is, we've had some fast developing stories, and even over the holidays. Pretty sure that the last time we were together, the Apple Watch was not being sold. It had been taken off the shelves. Then they won an appeal, and it's back on. And so, that's great. I'm hopeful that everyone who wanted to get an Apple Watch for the holidays was able to get an Apple Watch for the holidays. But I'm going to throw a couple things in the chat rooms here. The first one is that allegedly Masimo has spent $100 million. $100 million. Excuse me. Yeah, only $1 million. What am I thinking about? $100 million, in this fight with Apple.
Yeah, I found that to be really interesting. They, the CEO says, I don't care. I just want to justify that Apple shouldn't be doing this, and just because they're the largest company in the world, that they can just go ahead and just say, oh, we don't care about you, and we just infringe on our patent. So kudos to him for doing that. I just don't know how big his pockets are going to be, because Apple does have a lot of resources when it comes to their legal team. So I mean, and this has been ongoing for a number of years that we probably didn't even know about. Because as I mentioned, I think last week on this show, or maybe my show, that they had another lawsuit that was going on with another infringement that other company just kind of just let go, and that was about 10 years ago. So it's interesting to hear that this is the case, and this stuff is going to be interesting to see where this goes. I don't think Apple's going to take it lightly that this ban, because the ban is supposed to go until, the reprieve is supposed to go until the 10th of January as we record here. So this is going to be interesting for sure.
Mark?
Yeah, I call horse pucky on that number. I think that's just pure puffery and, trying to amplify how aggrieved he is. Because if you think about it, $100 million, assume he's paying $1,000 an hour for legal fees. That's 100,000 hours worth of lawyers. I just think that's horse manure. So we've all been, I think, exposed to this case on and off. Don't really know exactly what the merits are. I do know that, sort of pulse oximetry is an old technology. So unless they have something really unique in a patent about, how it might be done, I don't think that they have really much of a case. Again, it's just because pulse oximetry, it's done with little LEDs that clip on your finger when you go into your doctor's office. This is not state of the art, sensor technology. So I don't know exactly what the case is about. I can understand, if I was in his position, I'd probably be mad as hell too that Apple came and raided and took all my employees. But I don't know if it's the link that you posted or somewhere else. It seems that he had some ambitious people who felt like they hit this glass ceiling, and they bailed and went to Apple, and then subsequently moved on and founded their own other wearable device monitoring company. So I think there's a lot of backstory here that none of us really know and appreciate, but it's going to be interesting to see how it evolves.
No, I agree. And the one point I want to make, and then I'll send it on, is that every time he gets a mic or an article or something, it seems like he wants to posture himself to be the hero of the story. Not that the company is fighting big bad Apple, and that they're the ones that I believe it's a quote that got caught with their hands in the cookie jar. I struggle with that. Jeff?
All right. So, of course, he's posturing. That's a necessary part of this whole dance. So I'll set that aside for the moment, at least. It letting this go as far as it has, there's probably some merit on some level to Masimo's allegations. And Mark, just for clarification for you, this isn't about pulse oximeter technology specifically. It's about the way Apple is implementing it, and they're implementing it in a way that Masimo has a patent on. So it's the implementation that's the problem here. How much money they spent, who really knows? But they definitely have a right to defend their IP, and not just a right, a requirement. Because if they're not, then they lose control over that IP. So they need to be in this fight. I've read several articles on this, about the comments that the Masimo CEO has been saying. It raises a red flag for me because it sounds like part of what they are doing is the principle of the thing. And James, since you work with attorneys, you can silently back me up on this one. Every attorney is going to tell you, if you go to court over the principle of the thing, you have blown it. You never go to court over the principle of the thing. And it kind of feels like that's part of what's happening here. And if so, man, Apple, they will gladly just keep throwing money at this until they grind that company into dust. Right or wrong.
They'll gladly spend another $100 million on it. Because of it.
And then
without
actually, remorse, Apple will dance on their grave.
Actually, if you've spent more than millions of dollars with a single digit, I would be shocked. I think it's just all lying and posturing and playing the aggrieved victim.
Jim?
And again, because I can understand he's pissed off. He thought he had to deal with Apple, didn't quite work out. A beloved, respected employee betrayed him and left, and then he raided the other employees there, and they all went to Apple. He has certainly a reason to be upset and angry, but it's not clear if he has a patent case, and that's what I guess the courts need to figure out.
Jim? You're muted, Jim.
Oh, there are several thoughts I have on what everybody's saying, but to me, I think the most interesting thing that I didn't realize until I think even after our last show is that there's really a 2-track thing going on here. There's the patent case, in the courts, and then there's this import ban case through, I'm not sure what the department is, but
through
it's
the
sort
ITC.
of like ITC. So it's like Apple hasn't yet lost the patent case. I guess that hasn't even come to trial. So it seems really odd to me. Why do we have, why does the ITC separately, have this authority to do an import ban when the patent case hasn't been litigated? So to me, that's the biggest odd thing about this. That this it hasn't been yet determined in court that Apple is infringing, and instead there's this other agency that has somehow decided that, and that seems like not really good for society. That basically Massimo's getting 2 bites at the apple as far as that goes. As far as this guy being the hero of his own story, I hope he is. I hope I'm the hero in my story, and Chuck, that you're the hero in your story. If we're not going to do it, who is? I agree with Mark. I can't see how the math works out for 100 million, and really bad on these journalists for not doing the multiplication that Mark just did, and for publishing this number without any credulity. I also think, as far as the technology goes, I assume what the difference is, all the pulse oximeters I've ever seen, and they go on your finger and they shine an LED. They literally shine it. The LED's on one side, the sensors on the other side, and they're measuring the light variation as the blood pulses through. Okay, and those you can buy for $15, but on your wrist, it's not. It's using some sort of different technique because it's not. Uh, it's not transparent. They're not able to go through, so it's reflective or somehow. So whatever the IP is that works on your finger, that doesn't work on your wrist. So a different technology is needed. I assume that's what they're saying is you stole that technology. But again, I can't imagine how could this technology possibly be worth $100 million, either for Apple or for Masimo, or there's just no way that number of what your blood oxidation saturation is can possibly be worth that much money. Again, as you say, you can $15 you can measure it. It's not really there's no cures based on it or anything. It's just sort of a kind of maybe a little more than nice to know. I know like when my mom was in the hospital, and they certainly kept a close eye on it, because they could, but before they could do that, it didn't, it's not like that changed medicine. So it seems like if Apple had to not have this in the watch, are they going to really sell one less watch because of it? I don't think so.
Uh,
100% yes.
Brittany shouting at you, Jim. Yeah.
But
I
they
bought
would,
the 6 for the blood oxygenation.
and you didn't have a watch before?
I did, but I upgraded far before I needed to for that feature
Okay. Why?
because it was COVID and I have asthma.
But you could have bought a $15 doohickey.
Yeah, but I'll lose it. I know where the watch I'm already wearing is.
Buy 10 of them for the price of a watch.
But you get
It's-
everything else.
It's
that goes with
tracking
the
it whether
package.
I consciously put it on or not. There's a huge advantage to that.
Yeah.
Health
Our-
sensors are why I upgrade always.
Our new resident legal advocate, James, has James is refusing the title. I don't understand.
Oh, I mean, I haven't went through law school yet, but
Okay,
you
you have thoughts.
Oh, yeah, I have thoughts. Thank you. So I don't work in the engineering patents. I work with the science patents, but there's a lot of similarities with creation of both and the laws around both in a lot of ways. So, and talking, not to give my billable hour, but let's say I'm pretty expensive as the entry level technician for my billable hour. But even this number of $100 million, I do agree. I think it seems like a little bit of pump in circumstance. That's a lot of lawyers with some pretty high billable rates to get up to that number. So, but I guess the big question, of course, and I haven't personally looked at the Apple patents. But it all and also Masimo's patents, but it all depends on how the priority date of the patents, but also what they're claiming, what the claims are, like the boundaries you have around your technology. And the other big thing, of course, is the question I come to mind here is Apple being a huge company, it obviously has a lot of legal counsel, definitely a lot of IP counsel that I know, speaking for myself, for a law firm, we help clients in terms of making sure they don't infringe. So we do a lot of look at other patents that may predate theirs and see, with this, the answer is important questions like, would the writing a patent here be infringing on this other party? And of course, when you try to have your patent get approved by the USPTO, it goes through a lot of, as you guys probably know, work in terms of having examiners try to make sure that this is patentable, this is novel, and this is inventive in light of what they call cited references or other patents and literature before the priority date of that patent. So for me, it's at this stage, it seems like In terms of the legal battle, what I'm very curious about is what claims they're really trying to say that Apple infringed on, particularly, and which patents they're going to cite from Apple, and what Apple could cite for patents as well, to try to, in their case, to see if it really is infringement or not. And I'd be really surprised to see if Apple really had these things slip through, without really writing these patents, or devising these patents in such a way not to infringe. That'd be very surprising. But it's likely to happen. I'm not saying it never does, but this is what I'd be really interested in seeing what type of claims they're really trying to point to and say this is exactly where Apple copied or try to claim this, and we've had this at this date. So
Web,
and I can't give legal advice though.
Web, $100 million. Any thoughts?
Yeah, it is posturing. I'm sure they've spent a lot of money. I'm not saying that they haven't. I'm sure it's probably 7 figures. But what would that be? 10 figures? That seems 9 figures. That seems pretty high. But you can say I'm a little jaded what I'm about to say. Don't confuse going to court with the truth. It's going to be who tells the best story, who has the best documentation, and who presents the best case to convince a jury. And then you get into a whole thing about jury nullification and how that kind of spins out of control. That it doesn't matter what the jury instructions are. If the jury feels that Apple's a big company, they can just say, forget it. Apple can afford it. So it's not going to end at the circuit court level. It's going to go on to the appellate and probably even beyond that if necessary. It's just I think that, yeah, go ahead.
To what you're saying, I mean, that was like my biggest point about all this was that the watches got removed from sale without any trial, no jury, no judge, none of that. And to me, that's the biggest story here.
Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by Coda, your all-in-one collaborative workspace. Get started with Coda for free and get a $1,000 credit at coda.io/MacVoices. Last time I told you about using Coda for MacVoices from my single operator perspective. Sometimes, though, there are other contributors, contractors, or individuals who get involved in the creation and development of the show. Coda makes it easy for me to take what I already have and share the documents, spreadsheets, and apps that I use easily with those individuals, all in one easy-to-understand, easy-to-use location. I can start with managing my planning cycles, then collaborate and communicate on documents and roadmaps. And as new projects come up, I can get ideas and inspiration from hundreds of templates right inside Coda without having to create them myself. If you want a platform that empowers your startup to strategize, plan, and track goals effectively, you can get started with Coda today for free and get a $1,000 credit at coda.io/MacVoices. That's a special limited time offer for startups, and that means you can begin planning right now at no cost. That's Coda, coda.io/MacVoices to get started for free and get a $1,000 credit. You can't beat that price. I love Coda, and I know you will too. Thanks to Coda for supporting today's MacVoices.
I'd say that's a big story, except this is how the process works in the United States. So in that sense, it's not a story. This happens all the time. ITC has their own, and I'm using the term very loosely now, their own court. And you go and present your case to the ITC and their judges, and they offer a ruling. And that, yes, that's independent of what's happening in the other court case. However, it will have a bearing potentially on what happens in the other court case because an ITC ruling does have weight to it. So the ITC says, based on what they've been presented, yeah, it looks like Apple is willfully infringing on Masimo's patents, and this is going to have a negative impact on Masimo's business. Therefore, Apple should not be allowed to import and sell this product only in the United States. And of course, that is independent of what's happening in the other trial, which hasn't even happened yet.
Well, and I assume the other trial would only apply to the United States too. Masimo is going to have to sue Apple in every country that they want it stopped, right?
That they have a similar patent in, but yeah.
Right, but I mean, there's no global court that
Yeah.
You can get one ruling, and I mean, it could be that if you can't sell it in the United States, Apple decides, we give up. But I assume they would have to prosecute it in the EU at least, and in
Welcome
China.
to the joy
and,
of patent law.
Right, and Jeff, I didn't necessarily mean a story as in. I mean, there's lots of things that are not, are not well known, but they're not exactly, if you look, then they're knowable, but most people don't know them. And in this case, I didn't really know there was a 2-track. Now that's why I was kind of puzzled. Like, why does the president have anything to do with it? I was like scratching my head. The president can't overturn a court. Well, because there was no court.
There was no court. Yeah,
there was no court.
That's so I was like kind of like scratching my head over a lot of this until I finally figured out that there's really a 2-track thing, and this ITC thing has nothing to do with the court. And that's where this thing comes that the president can override it because it's this whole separate thing that is completely outside of the court system.
Well, Jim, it doesn't help that a lot of the people that are writing and talking about this don't understand what they're writing and talking about.
Right.
As an example, I saw a headline this morning that said White House supports Masimo against Apple because the White House did not veto the ITC
Right.
import ban. That's not true. The White House.
That's not really support.
Right, but they presented it as if the White House decided to back Masimo in this case. That didn't happen at all. The White House did not look at the.
They just washed their hands of it.
Yeah,
this is a point. Again, as Jim and J&J were discussing, yes, it may be seem odd. There's a court system. The ITC is an executive branch system. In the past, there have been other cases where they will, accede to ban a product under the theory by the claimant that to continue to allow that would so disadvantage me and pulverize me in the marketplace that you need to temporarily ban sale of their product. And so this is not the first time that the ITC has made rulings like that. So Jim, maybe this is the first time your eyes are open to what the ITC does. But anyway, having said that, again, I think this is grandstanding theatrics of, try to shut down sales of the Apple Watch, 10 days before Christmas, so this is all just legal grandstanding. And why the Biden White House, didn't elect to intervene, we can only speculate. But this system,
isn't that timing just a coincidence?
The timing was totally coincidence.
Yeah, just the ITC calendar, and that's where it happened to fall.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked you would think that there's gambling going on in that casino, Jim. But no. Again, it's all grandstanding, and I think Masimo, either he has a good mind or he has good advisors, but they're trying to milk it for all they're worth. And all I will say is, I can see through all their clickbait and other attention-grabbing headlines, and let the patent trial figure it out. And I'm sure again, as James said, Apple has huge IP things. I'm sure that they took steps to do it, as indicated by there's stories about them having software workarounds. So it sounds like they already on top of what they think may be weak areas in terms of what they're doing. So will it work or not? I don't think so. I think that's ultimately what the court ruling stated was. They said, okay, they have Apple thinks they have workarounds they have to stay at, and Masimo has. I think they gave either ITC or Masimo 2 weeks or some other time period to come back to either agree or disagree that it remedies their claims of patent infringement. Which I'm sure they're not going to agree with, because they see it Apple's cash pile and they want their fair share of it, I'm sure. But anyway, back to Chuck and maybe the next story.
Well, the next story is that Britt has to go. Britt, thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate it. But I know you have a heart out. So hopefully we're off next week. We'll see you the following week, we hope.
Thanks for having me. We'll see how it goes.
And as
Have
usual,
a great night.
Wait, as usual, where can folks find you?
You can find me on my website, which is conquer.consulting, or if you're looking for videos on the YouTubes or the TikToks, ADD Liberator.
Great. Thanks so much, Britt. Take care.
Thanks again. Bye.
Good night. Before we leave this topic, there's one other article I want to throw in, and it's a bit controversial because it is coming from the New York Post, which has some, let's just say, not everybody respects their reporting. But if you take a look at this and then do a Google search on bits and pieces of it, you find an awful lot of mentions about President Biden's interaction with the Masimo president. And so take it for what you will, but Jeff, you were bringing up the fact that the White House didn't intervene, and one can't help but wonder if this might have had anything to do with it.
What did Deep Throat say during Watergate? Follow the money?
Yeah, I listen, we've talked about that a million times here, Webb, yep. And you can't help but wonder. And I know that morning, I remember distinctly seeing some of the morning news shows, trying to talk to a White House representative, that Biden was looking at this or they were looking at it, and just nothing ever happened on it. So I submit that information. Do your research. Don't just take that article at face value, because
exactly
it's inflammatory. There's no question it's inflammatory, but there are some things out there that maybe you might want to be aware of that might affect your thinking.
Right. As I used to say in the Watergate era, what did the president know and when did he stop knowing it?
The controversy over the Apple Watch band continues to evolve. This will not be the last conversation we have about it. Until the next time, I'm Chuck Joyner. As always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.